Everyone.
Good morning.
Do you need a microphone? No. Do I need a microphone? All kidding aside. Thank you. Welcome to join us today. Today's a special talk today, and I'm really grateful because when I heard that Jurgis is a Holocaust survivor, my thought is, you gotta have him. This is a rare opportunity to have this. So I just and thank you so much for joining us today. And you know, the broken world that we live in, it's survivors like Jurgis that give us hope that the world continue on. And you know, as the old proverbs, you know, history repeats itself unless we learn from it. That's why I really believe this presentation is important, especially in the world that we live in. For this day and age, there are still people who still deny that the Holocaust even happened. For me, it's shocking. Like, how can anyone do that? You know, believe in something like that? Well, this is a living testament of a man like Jurgis. At the age of 5, as you know, he was in a concentration camp. So I just invite you today to come and hear him talk. And I'm just grateful that you're here. And also that your life, what you hear today, you'll share with others a message of hope. And together today, we gather today with the Lord. And I just want to invite you to pray with me for a better world that we live in, that the Lord's with us today, and the Lord fills Jurgis with His Spirit, and that He brings us a message of hope and a message of joy for one another. In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Loving, compassionate Father, be with us today. Send your Holy Spirit down on Jurgis and the rest of us, that our minds and our hearts are open to one another, to Jurgis and the words that you give through him, through the testimony of his life, that we know your love and your hope that you send us. In the midst of darkness is the light of Christ. That in doing so, may we be a light of Christ for one another. We ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen. The presentation format, just so you're aware, Lisa Hoffman and Bob have graciously came up with questions for the presentation. So they'll be asking questions, and we'll see how it goes. Today's talk is expected to last about an hour or so. So
start doing one of these if you see me running over.
Right, thank you, Lisa.
Thank you, Father Joseph. We are very pleased to have Jurgis Motiekaitis with us today. He's come a long way, as we all have. He has a special story to tell. Atop a hill, a shadow from which the columns rise. Haunting vision I approach, plastic maidens dancing while I stand entranced. Motions to music I cannot bear, tears upon their stoic faces. A dream has found me. Mannequins beautiful, austere and cold, I reached to touch, but they withdrew, denying my satisfaction of the sweet caress. Masked faces, distant and stern, they nod to a tragedy and comedy. Actors emotionless and still, they wrestle my eyes made on stage growing dark in despair. Then comes the troupe, all marching in step, guns in hand. A dream has found me. Capture the players and hoist them high, spectacles they make of the actors' lives. Holocaust befalls this surreal hour as barbed wire wraps the tower. I turn and flee ever so slow, my body now without control. A dream has found me on the other side. I walk along concrete paths, a maze of steps descend through fog, soon to be frozen still. I feel nothing, not accepting my plight, nor hate for the cruel world can I find. The crowd of Mardi Gras puppets gather silent and grim. A dream of dying this must be. A jester dressed in a colored hat smiles not at me. Alone but crowded is my fate. Not a dream at all, I fear. Eternal bondage I've come to know. I cannot move. I must awake to end this nightmare of sleep. Alas, the dream of life again begins. Jurgis, you are a survivor. Most of us don't really know what that means. What does a 5-year-old know about survival?
Well, when I was about 5, maybe 5, 6 years old, I remember very well that it's somehow you walk those streets. When my dad was intercepted by a police chief that he knew real well in Lithuania, when Germans lost at Stalingrad, at that time, the Russians were moving in to take over East, and of course, Mr. Roosevelt didn't help much. Anyway, everybody allowed Stalin to do whatever the hell he wanted. And he was just as bad as Hitler. My dad was intercepted by a chief of police and was asked, "What are you doing in Kaunas, Lithuania right now? I have a list. You're one of the first ones with the family will be shipped to Siberia. So you better get the heck out of here." He came home. We picked suitcases, just whatever we could carry, locked the apartment, very expensive apartment, very expensive things we had. My dad was a symphony orchestra director and conductor and the principal violinist soloist who graduated Leipzig Conservatory, and he was very well accepted in Russia, in Lithuania, and Poland, and he played solo all the time. But anyway, since his education was so big, so well known, he was ready to be taken to Siberia.
So you packed your bags and
And we locked up and we left. And we didn't leave on 747. We walked from Lithuania all the way to the Baltic coast. We walked on the dirty roads, dust roads, night and day, and slept in the ditch, ate in the ditch, sometimes to go to a little barn house, ask for food, so they'll give you, and sometimes they won't give you. So it was not easy.
and this is mom and dad and you
Mom, my
and-
dad, and my sister and me.
Okay.
And finally, we went to Baltic states, about the ocean, and was a harbor, small harbor, and the German ship with Red Cross was loading up, not prisoners, but the German soldiers who were wounded. And then they accepted my dad because my dad knew the captain. Somehow, just by luck, the captain was a friend of his. Says, "Okay, if your wife will work on a ship and help us, well, you can come." So then we went on that ship, and that ship was attacked by Russian planes that daytime when we were sailing it, at night too, but we made it.
And you landed where?
We landed in East Germany. East Germany we landed. And then we walked some more. The trains, everything was not, mostly for the soldiers and mostly if you have the money. We didn't have that much money. And so we walked again and walked. And I remember walking on a highway, was dusty road, just like this, very dusty, very gray and dust. And you don't, as a kid, you don't complain. You don't say, "Hey, Mom, I don't want to walk. I'm going to sit down." You don't do that. It's like you have to accept something like that because you have to do it. It's not because you like or you don't like, you have to do it. So no matter what happens, you have to walk. And one time, my dad, during that walk, said, "No, heck with it, I'm not going to walk. I'm going to sit by this rock and take a rest." And Mom says, "No, it's the woody area. Partisans could be here anytime. Russian paratroopers were dropped not too long ago, so let's just walk." And then when I remember very well, even today, right now I can see it, Mom says, "Don't look back." Well, when you're a kid, you don't tell a kid, "Don't look back." I looked back, I remember 3 Russian paratroopers with machine guns walking about like from here to that wall, just walking across the road. They could have shot us, they could have killed us, but they left us alone.
Praise
Now,
God.
you know, why God allowed it? I'm still
We
here.
would call that miracle
Oh
one.
God, it was, my mom
And so
just
did
couldn't believe it. Later on, she always said, I cannot believe that those Russian soldiers didn't shoot us, because they would, they really would. So anyway, but we walked, and I remember dusty roads so much. And when we got to Germany, of course, our papers expired. We had no papers. But my dad had in the pocket his Leipzig Conservatory graduation papers. So that really helped. And when they arrested us, Gestapo, and put us in a concentration camp in Austria. We got not far from Vienna, Graz-Leoben. And Dad went to one concentration camp because of the mail, and Mom, my sister, and me as children in another camp. And we were there maybe, 6, 7, 8 months. I got yellow fever, and yellow fever is a very bad sickness. But I pulled through. I did okay. I went to the hospital, and it was a labor camp. It wasn't Auschwitz. But the problem is when they say labor camp or concentration camp, they're all the same. You don't get food. You don't get medicine. You just live day after day.
What kind of food did you get? It's not
Well-
that you could grow your own vegetables or have a little garden.
No,
How did you
what
get
it
food?
is, every couple of days, not every day, couple of days, the German truck used to pull up into the gate and then open up the back, and with shovels, they shovel out on the dirt all trash food. And women and men, women at that camp used to go, I remember very well, and they put food and then go to the barracks and we cook them. And how many times we found like cabbage or potatoes, all that just rotten. But if you cook enough, long enough, you can still eat. So one time my mom found a large piece of pig skin, and it had already worms on it. So she took it and and put it in the hot water and washed it, and I remember cleaned it, and after a while we ate it. It was okay, it was food still, but it was very, very, as a kid, you don't complain. Like over here, how many kids scream and this and that, and my bicycle broke, or you just have to do it. You're so used to this that you have to do it and be shut up and do it. And it worked. But anyway, when we were arrested now, in the camp was very dirty, very rusty. And I remember even today, going outside the barbed wire, it was a big, heavy barbed wire. Other side of barbed wire was green lawn, trees, beautiful homes, and German homes. And you look at that, how come I'm here and not that? It's okay, I guess I have to be here. It's like, okay, I'll do it. So then we went, kids, my mom went to work. She graduated Moscow University. She graduated Lithuanian University in, I think, Voronezh or Odessa. She had 3 universities. She was very well educated person. But because she's Lithuanian, not German, that's concentration camp. And my dad went to another camp, but he was allowed to go and teach German kids play violin because he had Leipzig papers, graduation, and that really helped. So
That gave him a little bit of clout, didn't it?
when he went there and was teaching, he in a school, I guess in Leoben, he met 2 little ladies, older ladies, both sisters, and they were super Gestapo ladies. They were super Germans and Hitler was everything to them. So,
Father says,
what? Did you hear me? Okay. What?
There you go.
Okay. Can you hear me now? Okay. Those two ladies, they were Gestapo ladies, and they went to Gestapo and says, hey, this guy is a real good teacher, real good violinist. Let's allow him to come and live with us in Leoben. And he said, well, I would live with you people, but I can't do it because my wife and my 2 kids are in another camp. Well, so fine, don't worry, we'll get them out. And they did. They got us all out. And then after that, when we lived in Leoben, now at that private home, I remember those little ladies were very old, and they really like Hitler pictures were there, everything. But it was like, at least we ate. And I never will forget one thing that was even today, when I go to a store and I see a bun, those buns, that you guys have at the white bun, just in a
Bread.
Yeah, right, bread. We used to get one of those a day. So what you do during the war in Leoben, put it in a pocket, and you take it out in the morning. You get it because on the cards you get one of them, and then you lick it, you smell it, you eat it. But you eat only at night before you go to bed, because then in bed you're sleeping, you're not hungry. So this way it's teasing you, but at least you have that little bun. And when I go to the store today and I see that, I can see the damn thing right there. It's the same thing, right? Except, of course, I can buy 5,000 of those. Oh, Maria won't let me. But I can eat them all. But it's just something about those little buns. I remember in Seattle when my sister used to buy me one. And I kind of take it home and I look at it. I can't believe it, how that little bun sometimes makes such a big memories. But anyway, then...
So I'd like to know, too, in all of this, is there prayer in the family?
Yes, so what it is...
now at this age that God is helping you as He's keeping the machine gun guerrillas from,
Well, what it is, in the camp, when you're sitting in the camp, and
Do we have that phone?
sorry.
So in the camp, no, it's when you get more than 2-3 people in the group, right away Gestapo and the guards break you up. And even if you pray, you gotta go in the corner somewhere, pray, and sometimes like some people will put the cross or something, or maybe Jesus picture or something, and the Gestapo will come in and they'll destroy it. It's like you're not allowed to have anything. You cannot get groups of people and talk and sit down, and you cannot do that. It's against the law. And if you break the law, like for instance, my mom and me and my sister went other side of the fence. There were Russian prison camp, army camp. The Russians were there, and they had no food at all. My mom used to get something from her own pocket and give it to them. And one time they noticed, the Gestapo noticed, and they took whips and they started whipping everybody and trying to get them away. They're the Russians. They're right. They're enemy. You're aiding the enemy. They were very nasty, very nasty. Mm-hmm. So the Gestapo and the Germans, the problem, the Stalin era and the German era is the same, exactly in the same line. Stalin and Hitler was in the same line, except that Stalin was smarter. He didn't advertise that he had concentration camps. Hitler did. So this is the only thing. But if you're in Stalin's camp, you're dead duck anyway. So it's the as far as praying, as far as getting together, and like we the kids, I remember running into hide and seek, playing with my sister and other kids in the camp. Mom goes to work at 6 in the morning and she comes home 6. She worked in the factory and of course didn't get paid at all. There's no pay. And she used to come home late and the kids were just loose in the camp. And I ran into this building about a little bit bigger than this one. And there were tables like that. There were many tables, and on each table were a dead child with a newspaper on top. And it's like I looked around, nobody's talking, I guess they're sleeping. Or, I knew they're not sleeping, I knew there's something else. But it's funny, you don't look at them at that time, that age, and say, oh, they're dead, no big deal, or whatever. They can't come, I guess. It's just, again, somehow, I don't know what it is, some kind of stupidity of accepting something miserable like that. You have to accept, or else there's no way out.
At that age, or I would like to think that perhaps that's when you were learning that God was with you.
Well,
and He was carrying you and your mother and your sister so you could be reunited with your dad.
Somebody definitely helped them like that because, my dad's Leipzig papers, just the papers, and that helped, and things like that. Those 2 little Gestapo gals, again, I couldn't believe it. After the war, my dad went and visited them. It's crazy, but he did. Yeah. And he said, well, they were kind of mad. They wouldn't let me in the house. And now, the Americans were there and this and that. And my dad says, the ladies wouldn't let me in. But finally I got in, I knocked on the door and they, oh, it's you. And, I think my dad even took them some chocolate or something for what they did to us.
So tell us, when the war was over, how did you react to the Americans that were coming in now?
Well, that was another crime.
Celebration in the streets?
Yeah, well, no, what it is, I'll tell you, this was the real bottom line of mine.
Can I interrupt you for 1 second? I want to finish what you were asking him about prayer.
Yes.
You told me a lot about your mother and how strong her belief was. Explain how that was for you during that time of no hope and chaos and scared and fear. What would your mother tell you how to get through it? What message did your mother give to you about God?
Well, we couldn't complain. The message was kind of simple. We can't complain. We can't cry. We cannot. We have to accept unaccepted. We have to deal with this and be quiet and just keep walking. Tomorrow will be a better day. It's like sort of you can't complain. I remember none of us really complained much because we just can't. Okay. So it was for instance, the camp, the food, everything. Sometimes you don't get nothing at all during the day. So when the trash truck comes every second day or every third day, then you run over there, get things, and you take it home and they cook it. And you don't say, well, I don't like this, I rather like this. So
it sounds like it's a reason to be thankful.
Yeah.
It's a testament of being thankful that yes, it's slop, but you're still getting something.
Well, that something is, you got to live, you got to eat something, right, correct. But when you asked me on one question, when Americans came, I remember I was now we were in Salzburg, again.
Talk in the microphone.
There in Salzburg, Austria. in Leoben, during that concentration camp, my dad, again now, was walking home to this camp, and some friend of his stopped him on the street again. What happened in Kaunas? He said, "What are you doing here in Leoben?" He says, "Walter," he says, "Russians are 30 kilometers away. They're in Vienna. They'll be here tomorrow." Okay, so he ran home. The heck with Gestapo now. Nobody was trying to arrest him anyway. There was nobody on the streets. Went to our camp, says, "Hey, get your suitcases, whatever, we'll get them heck out of there." And the camp, again, was open. We were in Leoben at that time. I'm sorry, we were in Leoben, but that was ladies. And we went, they told those ladies, "We're leaving here." Okay, so the last train in Leoben was going to Salzburg, Austria. And we made the last train. And then when we went there, the Graf Meran, that where my brother was living and studying cello, he was very well known. He was not a Gestapo, he was not a German, he was a very nice guy. And he was very big. If he married some princess, he would have been a king of Austria, but he didn't. So anyway, he was wealthy, and he had a big mansion, a beautiful mansion that we stayed. And he says, "You guys can stay here." I went to the Gestapo and I told them, "I'll take care of you. Don't worry about it." And again, we were lucky because we left Leoben 30 kilometers from Russians again.
So jump forward, then you catch a boat and you make it over to the States. Yes?
To the United
To the
States?
United States.
No, wait a minute. Yeah, there's another story
Okay.
that's really interesting. During that time in Salzburg, of course, Americans were coming in now from another side. And they told Austrians, Salzburg, Austria says, "We will not surrender." And Americans says, "Fine, we'll send 500 bombers." Oh, okay, we'll surrender. So they, one morning was foggy, and the night before, about, I would say 12 or 13 shells fell all around our building. Didn't hit the building, but we were in the basement hiding, and they were bombing. Americans were shooting at us, and because the German army was pulling out on the highway. Anyway, in the morning, got foggy like over here, and I came outside and I looked around. It was kind of drizzling, raining, and fog. I went through the fancy gate. That the mansion had a real nice gates, and I looked left, right. I remember right, but I looked left, and like from here to where our car is, that blue car, is the American tank with the white star. And I, being a kid, I don't know, 6 years, 5 years, I knew. I went home, I says, "Mom, war is over. American tank." "Oh, no." So she went look, and then these guys called me. I remember I walked there. They put me in the tank. They gave me chocolate. I'll never forget what they gave me. They gave me a can of Spam, and half a can of Spam, half a can. There was a corned beef hash. Somebody was eating and just give it to you. And, boy, you're not going to throw it away. You take it and you eat. I take it home, and I said to Mom, "Look at this." And then we'll never forget Americans. I tell my mom, "Look, we got a white bread." And says, "Well, no wonder Americans won the war. They always eat only the cake." And there was no cake, that was white bread. So it was, but when that tank showed up with the white star, I knew that darn war is over. And it was really, really. And then Americans came to that area and made a camp, army camp for themselves. But we were allowed to stay. And they had a kitchen. Oh my God, did I ate good then. they dug a hole as big as this room outside, maybe like a little bit next door, and then they were they would dump, army dump. And I used to go there, climb down, and one day I found a big can, gold can inside, and it was some kind of paste. And I got started scraping that paste, and what it is was a peanut butter. Never had a peanut butter in my life. And then the camp brought American Army people used to stop there and eat. So I used to, with a little bucket, stand outside, and the guy comes in and put in the trash their food that they didn't need. No, put it in here. So then mashed potatoes and meat and whatever was in one big can. I take it home, look, Mom, we ate that, really. Was really something. But the war teaches you discipline of not complaining. That's what really the answer to everything was. We just couldn't complain. We just couldn't say, no, I ain't going to do it, or I'm not going to go, I'm not going to eat it, or you just don't complain. You accept unaccepted. And maybe this is what you live for, and you're going to accept it, and it's, I guess.
You may not have realized it, but I think God was taking care of
Well,
you.
yes.
We all feel as though whatever happens to us, we have to accept it because that's what God is giving to us. Whether it's, peanut butter in a half jar or scraps out of a trash can, if that's what we get, it's food for us. It's what, it's what we can appreciate.
Yeah. But coming to United States wasn't hard. Was 2 years. We lived in the DP camps in Hanau. Oh, that was a good one. And the Americans were taking care of us. They were, food was free. Everything was free. Nobody worked, and it was like being in a camp. That's really
But then
nice.
another reality.
Vacation
So now
camp.
here you are in America, and you pulled into Detroit. I think I read here.
Right, correct.
So
2 years took us to get through all the paperwork, everything. It took. We didn't jump the fence like some of the people did. We were waiting 2 years to get through the papers, through the medical, through all that. Yes.
Right.
And we went to Detroit, and in Detroit, now he was too old to work, so I went to work, and my first job was I remember Red Arrow, a bottling company that I worked, was kind of interesting. But it's a...
So when did you pick up a camera?
I was working in the factory 12 years in Santa Fe Springs. And I remember my boss bought the camera, German camera, Zeiss-Ikon, 1950, something like 1955, 56. And he didn't like it. It was too, whatever. So he sold it to me for, I remember, $150. I bought it from him. And I started taking pictures. And it just on the side, on the weekends, I used to go, not far from us was the Santa Fe Springs oil fields. And I really liked the sunsets and oil fields, and I was doing a lot of artsy work. And I learned to do a lot of industrial. Well, later on, when I became Atlantic Richfield's and Shell Oil Company's chief photographer, I traveled all over the world for them. And you guys don't even know what I did. I had my own 740, not 7, I have a Grumman 4, and I had a Saberliner. I just go to Burbank and say, I'm going to Alaska, I'm going to Philadelphia, I'm going to this. 3 weeks I'm on the road. Okay, fine, let's go. I got a pilot, and I'm sitting in my own plane, and it was fantastic. It was nothing like walking on the road. I remember, that was a great one. on the way from Philadelphia, the pilot says, "Oh, are you hungry?" I said, "Oh yeah, I could eat something." So he lands in Iowa, and he starts landing, and I'm looking through the window. Where in the heck is he going? It's all wheat. There's no airport. Well, there was a dirt road, all right. It was a highway. It was actually not a highway, but it was the runway for private planes. But our the Saberliner at that time, not G4s couldn't land there. But maybe we landed, stopped. What the heck are you going to do? Oh, wait till you go get some ribs. Oh, and there was an old shack next, right to the runway. And yes, they were serving ribs, chicken, and all kind. Oh my God, did I eat good! And then we take off back to Los Angeles, and it was like, oh, that was a good one. And then, of course, every time I used to go see Dinah Shore in the Colorado Springs, she had a big shebang going there with children's, something to do with children's. There were a bunch of sick children, and she was supporting them. And so Dinah Shore was really nice lady. Every time I used to go there, I landed with my G4, and of course, by that time, there's like 10 other G4s from, U.S. Steel and all the big CEOs. And I go into a hotel, and then there's a Dinah Shore with about, I don't know, maybe 10 U.S. corporate CEOs. And she calls me, says, "Come on over, I want you to meet someone." I mean, I don't know them.
You're just a photographer.
Yeah, I'm just a photographer. So, "Oh, you guys, wait till this guy shows you what he does. He's making a slideshow with us, and he is fantastic." And yeah, we did such a good job that we have to show them second time. That doesn't happen. Even McDonald's Corporation came to look at our show, slideshow. So it was, I used to shoot somewhere between 5,000 and 6,000 slides a month. And had Leica's. Leica is the best camera. Even the German camera.
Jurgis, what do you make sense of all your life? It seems like you went from one extreme poverty, I mean, living just day-to-day survival, now to land of abundance. What do you make sense of all this? I mean, what does it mean, all this to you? It seems like such a radical change in life from living day-to-day, not knowing whether you can make it for tomorrow.
Correct.
And now food just comes in so abundance and all this globe-trotting thing. What is it? How do you make sense of all this in your life?
Well, I don't know. It's with a hard life like that I had, and then being a corporate photographer and being really in fancy hotels and airplane and everything, I just don't know what it's like maybe God rewarded me with something really nice.
Maybe.
But well, no, I'm saying he rewarded me with something nice, but now he's taking the Annie away, so that's not right either.
Is it possible though that as we go through, as you relive your childhood and you realize how hard and how difficult it was,
Oh yeah,
and then you see again how
it's going to be difficult again.
how things were given to you and your doors opened up.
I know.
So now you've got the strength behind you to know you can still get through anything.
Well,
Because you did before.
yeah, I guess
And
so.
you were rewarded.
I guess so.
So at our end times, if we're going through hardship again,
Correct.
we will still be rewarded.
Oh, sure. No, you have to believe in it. You're right. You have to believe in it, or else there's no, you can't just give up.
Right.
You can't give up. If you give up, then it's just not worth it. But you have to continue going for tomorrow and for whatever.
The word persevere comes to mind. where we have to have perseverance no matter what the difficulties are.
Right, right,
Because we know in the end it's going to be a reward.
yeah.
And
Right.
that's hope, because if it's just persevere, just survival day to day, then that's all there is. Then you die. That's it. I mean, it seems so pointless. You know what I mean? If you're just surviving and trying to make it day to day, and you don't know when you're going to get shot randomly by some
Right.
soldier who just decided for whatever reason, I like that kid. Boom. I mean, that doesn't make sense at all. It just for me,
Yes.
it's hard to wrap my mind around it. The meaning of life, that you have to have hope to keep you going. So I think your mom somehow, her practice of faith must have kept her going. So, you know,
Oh, yes.
I would imagine she went throughout life trying to protect you from all this crazy insanity of no child should ever have to go through.
Yes,
It's unreal to
yes.
see the worst of life, the brutality of a human being.
I think you're on
person.
to the most important thing that your mom.
Yeah.
Your mom had the acceptance that Christ wants us to have. She accepted everything,
Yeah,
and she told you that was the message of life.
yeah,
Accept things,
yeah,
and that's hard for
yeah,
everybody.
yeah,
When I had my stroke, I felt like my life was over,
yeah.
but it's really just beginning. And you found the same experience. The war kind of destroyed your childhood, but it gave you a new life
Yeah,
that was much better.
yeah,
It made you adventurous. It made you challenge the world on your own pace.
yeah,
And the war certainly changed your look for food. I mean, when you see food, as Andy says, Jurgis eats really, really fast. He's just, I guess, for the mindset of a young person, if you don't eat it, it'll be gone. Someone's going to take it from you. So eat, stuff yourself. And Jurgis doesn't know when to stop. It sounds like when he eats.
Well,
Whatever
actually,
you put in front of him, he'll eat.
what I learned that is something during bombing raids. Of course, Americans bomb in the daytime, or British at night, and we all knew they're going to be bombed. So you sit down and eat dinner, and then you hear siren. Oh God, that's it. You got to go to the basement. So you eat real quick because you got to run to basement. And in the basement, you just wait until bombs fall off, and then in the morning, when 2, 3, 4 hours later, when American bombers fly away, you come out. Well, of course, the neighbors are burning, everybody is burning around you. You're okay, and then you go finish your food. But you eat fast. You're right. It's something about. I don't know. It's everybody looks at me and says you eat too fast. No matter who I'm with, they say you eat too fast. You eat too fast. Well, yeah, I said the bombers are.
So I read in your bio also that you were not only a photographer but a painter. And we're passing the book around that's got pictures of his paintings. So
Yeah.
what was the transition for you, and why did you get into painting from
Well, what happened?
camera?
When I was in elementary school in Lithuania and in Hanau, I was the worst student. My mom always used to get a note from the teacher, and I had to give it to my mom and sign and read it, and she has to sign it, and I have to give it back to the teacher because how bad I was. So I learned to sign her name. I was 5, 6 years old, and I learned it. And one day the teacher says, "Wow, I sent you so many notes, and you don't reply. What notes? I never got a note." So, wow, I got them all signed. So I did that myself. But in the meantime, when I have to admit one thing, that was really strange. Where I never went to high school. I went in 1952, 53, 55. I was riding a bus in Los Angeles in 1950s. And I seen this gorgeous, beautiful brick building, says school. But of course, I never read the whole thing. So, it's school. I said, well, okay, I'm going to go in, sign up. I have to go to high school and start, first, whatever grade to I finished grade school, but never went to high school. So I went in there, and then they said, well, you want to come to the school, you have to prove your education. I said, hey, you guys bombed. Everything is burned during the war. I don't have any. Okay, then you have to take IQ test. And they told me, after I took about half a day of IQ test, they said 135 points is up 100% good. You had 125 points. You passed it real easy. You went to school. Well, about 6-7 months later, I'm sitting by the school on steps and reading something, and I'm looking at now on the wall, it says, Los Angeles Frank Wiggins Junior College. Wait a minute, it's not high school, it's college. So but I don't go to the teacher and say, hey, I can't come here, this is college, I gotta go to high school. Hell no. I stayed there and I graduated. I graduated as a A1 student.
Good for you.
I graduated, and so I never went to high school. My sister graduated high school, never went to, and I just graduated to junior college. And I figured, well, that's fine with me, and no complaint.
So I never found out. I asked you, how did you get from photography to painting?
Well, now in junior college, I became #1 student. I really did very well. I was the junior college. Frank Wiggins was a trade school, and I went drafting. I learned the drafting, and I learned commercial art, and that's why my cartoons and stuff. And I kind of like all that. But in the meantime, it's
so your photography was your bread and butter, and
correct.
And your
That
painting
was my
just a
job.
sideline.
But because I knew that one day photography might stop, and they did. Atlantic Richfield was bought out by British Petroleum, and now Atlantic Richfield is no longer there. But if they were here, I would still be probably working with them. But now you have to go to London and reapply and all that. But art is just another. I went to Chenard Art Institute too, and I did very well in design. I kind of like that. I like commercial art, and I liked very much design art. So,
Jurgis, how is your experience in childhood affect your being as an artist? How does it affect your work? Life experience. How does that affect? Because I noticed the color you choose is always bright color. I don't know, for me that's a sign of hope. I mean, a joy when you see bright color in the choice of the artist.
well, I kind of like Vincent van Gogh, and I like Gauguin. I like, Monet is a little bit too soft. But I like to use color. It's just, how to say, if any artist paints just with one or two, we have in Lithuania a well-known artist, Jurgis, who painted just brown and black. And every time I talk to people, my people, I always knock them down, and I get, kind of slapped in the face. Oh, he's the best. He's the best. No, he's not. If he was alive, I would give him some more paint to paint. He was a smart, done very well, but he had only two colors that he used to use, black and brown. It's like, what's the matter? The world is not black and brown.
And so I remember what you said also. On the inside of the fence,
Yeah.
you were in dirt and brown and darkness and
Yeah.
trash.
Yeah.
On the other side was green and
Correct.
flowers
Correct.
and
Correct.
money and a
Correct.
life. And so maybe that's what your colors are trying to show. Hope that you
I
can
like
see.
to use every color in the world, and then I like to even add. I mix the color, and I never used to mix colors. Now I mix it. It's texture. Like for instance, in Switzerland, I showed my work, and this gallery says, "I've never seen a painting like this ever." He says, "You better stick with it." you do this very well, and he appraised my work at anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 a painting.
Wow.
Well, you gotta find a customer, but in the meantime, he says, well, this is what you're worth, and this is something else.
Jurgis, did your mom ever teach you? Did you guys pray together in the concentration camp? A 5-year-old. I'm just curious. Did she?
They did in secret, Father.
In
He
secret.
said, yeah, they couldn't do it in groups of 2 or 3.
Right.
The Gestapo would come in, break them apart.
Oh, yeah,
So
yeah.
you had family prayer time, or you had
Yeah.
secret meeting.
My mom used to sit in the corner, I remember that much, in the corner by the bed, in the dark corner, and she used to pray. And but as soon as the guards used to come in the building, and they look at you, and they break you up. They kind of, hey, what do you do? What are you sitting here for? Praying? You can't pray. You have to go to work, or you have to do something, this, that. Yeah, it's like I say, you cannot congregate at all. But children outside, they could congregate some. And I remember this was sergeant or somebody. He was shooting frogs in a pond, and these guys were throwing rocks at him. And boy, it was pretty close, where he could have shot the kids too if he wanted to. So they were nasty. The Gestapo. Yesterday, me and Marianne was watching something horrible on TV. This Nazism is coming back in here. And it's like, what an idiots. The young kids are dumb. They just don't understand that Hitler, when he took over, he got rid of people like that right away. The first thing he done was all the brown shirts and all that helped him to get up. They killed them all. Well, these guys that they're doing here, same thing with the Nazism going all this and that. If Hitler ever would come, he would kill them first anyway. He uses them for.
We know God protects us.
Yeah.
And has He protected you?
And and the main thing is their education is real dumb. They don't understand what that is.
So here's one of my questions at the very end here. After all is said and done, have you been able to forgive, not necessarily forget, the darkness of humanity and the ignorance of human suffering, and tell us if Jesus has helped you with all of this?
Well, actually, no. Yes and no. It's like if I was in Germany, I would be probably kicking some butts. It kind of. I feel like an old man. If he's an old man, he must have been maybe a Nazi or maybe a SS guy. And it's like, and if somebody was an SS guy, I would really, really wouldn't want to be around him. It was just. It's like you don't have to hate them,
Right.
kill them, but you have to associate with them either.
That's right. So you know that Jesus is around you and He's protecting you.
And that's another reason why we came to the United States, because my dad still could have, after the war, got a job in maybe Berlin Symphony Orchestra or something, big. He could have done it, but he didn't want no part of it. Right. He was kicked around, and he didn't like that. And it's in the United States, things were totally different, totally.
It must be challenging after the war. Anytime you see any German person, I don't know. Did you ever wonder, did this person, were they Gestapo? Were they serve the army?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just curious about your thoughts. All of a sudden when you see, does that trigger your memory? Like, oh my God, this
Like
guy.
the bun? Like the bun?
Yeah.
Like
Yes, the bun. Does it trigger back flashback? Or any war movie? Anyone looks like a German person? I mean,
What was it?
He's wondering if now, do you have memories of then when you see a person, I guess?
yes.
I wouldn't really know a German from
He's never said anything about that.
something else.
He really
Yeah.
he never talks about that. And he talk about forgiveness.
Well, no, I understand what you're saying. Forgiveness, yes. It's just like we can forgive for what they did. I don't know about that because I I know a Lithuanian guy who joined Nazis, and he was executing Jewish people. And then was on TV a couple years ago, and says, oh, well, you know, a guy is asking him, like you, who would you shoot first, a father or a son or a child? Oh, no, you shoot the father first and then the child. And it's like he was talking like, oh, well, you know, it just happened. I don't mind that, you know. So people like that, the hell with them. You know, this is wrong. He was proud what he did, but now, you know, he said, well, I have to serve in Siberia 8 years for that. Ha, ha, ha. He even laughed. Well, you know, that's people like that. What do you do? Forgive them?
I pray for them. That would be my answer to your question.
It's a pray for them for what? So they would go to heaven? Heck no, I don't want them there.
But you know, for me, the world's so broken. You know, if everyone an eye for an eye, as this old proverb says, if the world lived by the rule of an eye for an eye, all of us will be blind.
That's true.
You know, there'll be no one left. I mean, for me, being a priest is about a message of hope to other people. I mean, all I see, as I grow a bit older, I know you guys laugh about this, seeing a bit grow older, we all do, you know, to see there's so much suffering in the world. There has to be a change. And change has to start from the heart. Because if I don't forgive in my heart, what happens is that just the bitterness and the anger just goes on and on and on and on. And I can't, how much longer do I have to carry this around?
I understand. No, I understand what you're saying.
I understand your position. I can't imagine. I wouldn't be able to imagine going through what you've gone through. And you know, but at the same time, for me, it's kind of disappointing. We never learn as human beings. You know, people do what they do to each other. How much hatred around.
That's
and
true.
The only answer I believe to respond to hatred is love. And you know, even though Jesus says, love your enemy. Love your enemy. Even though he didn't say anything about deserving it, or they asked for it, or they even want it. Because these people are really, I don't know what the heck, their issue is. Like, how can anyone feel okay with shooting a father and a little child? That doesn't comprehend in my mind. At the same time, we are called to forgive as Jesus forgiven us. Forgiveness doesn't mean that I'm going to forget about it or I'm going to still suffering from it. Because I would imagine, the German people after the war, it took them a long time until the 70s for them to finally talk about their terrible past for them. Because I would imagine after the war, children, young people growing up, it's like they're wondering, their grandparents and fathers, their own family, what part did you play in all this? Did you work in a concentration camp? They have to find a change in their life, because I would imagine it must be hard if I found out my grandfather and my father and my parents had a part in all this. For to look at them the same way. It would be challenging for me. Oh my gosh, how could I respect my own family history? Except the brokenness and the, they're still my parents. For God's sake, I didn't choose them, and I don't know their situation, whatever the decision they make. But I think healing comes when we're facing our woundedness with honesty. So, yeah, I'm really angry at mom and dad. I really don't understand. But at the same time,
you have to love them anyway.
You have to love them anyway. Love them anyway. And that's why Jesus came among us.
Indeed.
Came among us.
So I would ask you, at 86 years old you are?
Yep.
Joys and blessings, can you tell us?
Well,
to end this on a happy note, we'd like to know what some joys and blessings are can culminate in your life now.
Well, I said that I lived, went around the world quite a bit, and went to Tahiti, to Hawaii many times, and things like that. And that
I have a question. Everybody, the father had this really good question about And I have to ask myself, why you? How come all this good stuff happened to you?
Yeah.
I'm curious about that. God did things for you, and yet you went through all this misery in your youth. How does God do that? Everybody always asks, why me when something bad happens?
Mm-hmm.
Did you ask that when God said you're going to go fly the world?
Why you?
Why you?
You know what I'm saying, Father?
Yes.
I don't know. That's a big question.
For me, it is. For everybody.
Yeah, that's a very.
You got lucky.
You know, there's as long as we live in this world, I guess there's always going to be obstacles. There's always going to be problems, and somehow, somewhere, we have to learn to maneuver, learn to accept it, learn to do things, and we can't just give up. We can't give up. If you give up, that's a bad thing to do.
And without grumbling. Apparently your mom taught you, don't grumble about this.
Yeah, it just
There's
is.
scriptures that say don't grumble.
No, I know.
I'd like to ask Jurgis a question.
Yeah.
Jurgis, were there any Jewish people that were part of Lithuania when you were young?
Were there any Jewish people that were part of Lithuania?
Oh, yes. Oh, God, yes. It was quite a few. In Vilnius, actually, Vilnius capital was mentioned in 1920s and 30s before Hitler took over. It was what they call Jerusalem of the West or something like that. Yeah. Oh, God, yes. And then Jewish were very, they had businesses. They were very good shoemakers. My mom and dad, well, my mother's mother was Jewish. And what happened is my mom married Christian, and she became a Christian. And my mom always respected Saturday, Shabbat. She respected all the Jewish holidays. She never washed clothes, nothing. And next door, we had a doctor who was, when Hitler came, arrested and taken to Auschwitz. Very good doctor, Jewish doctor. So we had a lot of friends, Jewish people. And it was a very prominent, Vilnius in Lithuania was very big actually, in Poland there were a lot of Jewish people, but in Lithuania too. And they were very well-known people. Like, for instance, my favorite violinist, Yosha Heifetz, was born in Lithuania, and he's same thing. He's graduated from Moscow, and I think Leipzig too. And the trouble is with the Jewish people, there's no trouble, but they like to get in and they like to work, and they work very hard. They're not lazy, and some of the people are jealous what they do. Oh, well, he's Jewish, he made it, and I didn't. Well, that's not true. He worked 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and he made it, and you don't. And our people, Lithuanians, even today, the hell with it. You go to Lithuania, and the first thing they do is, oh, let's have a drink, let's have a drink. They all get drunk, it's like, they're not as educated in the way of, hey, booze is not going to make it. You got to do something to. And like I went now to Lithuania a couple times after Russians left. Their art stinks. Their photography stinks. Everything that they do, architecture stinks. I don't like it. And I knocked them down. And then I was upset with the Russian rule. In a restaurant, they had we walked into a restaurant, and it was about like this, and they had 5 dishes, and nobody was there, just us. And the guy says, I said, oh, we're going to sit down. No, you can't sit there. because it's 5 dishes, 5 people. There's only 4 of you. And I looked at him and said, the hell, man, now I'll take one. I took one dish, put it away. Now it says only 4 dishes. And, you don't do this. This is Lithuanian now. Well, you don't do it. Well, I do whatever I want. I was bitter on the Russian rule. I wasn't bitter on him. I was bitter on their rules. The rules stinks. Nothing is good. And for instance, when Stalin took over, he closed all churches. Every church in Lithuania was closed. Today, they have in Vilnius 330 churches, cathedrals, 300 in one city, and they're all open. And then the president of Lithuania, that was a communist son of a gun, he finally, at the end, was 2000, they gave the churches back to the Catholics again. Oh, now you can open them up. Then when he died, they wouldn't let him in the cathedral. They wouldn't put his casket. And then all my friends says, oh, how bad. This is such a good president, and he wouldn't go to the cathedral. I said, the hell no. That guy should have been buried in Russia, not Lithuania. You know, it's just, like I say, you don't have to be revengeful, but you don't have to accept baloney. And this president was a communist Lithuanian. He was closed the churches. He was, doing what Stalin told him.
And that's what authoritarian governments do. They break people's hopes and not allowing the people, the concentration camp, the inmates to congregate for freedom of speech. These are liberties that's very important. And they want to break up hope, not allowing you to pray and to worship. They want to break you down. And that's the word, and at the same time, we have to be a people of hope to keep us going, just looking towards something better.
Yeah.
We just can't give up, like you said, no, persevere. But persevere has to bring you towards something better. And I think, that's what Christ is trying to bring to us. And I just want to thank you, close up by thanking you so much for today, for your experience. After the talk today,
Culture of,
Correct.
yeah.
Correct.
That's right.
Correct. It's like you can't, like for instance, in apartments in Russia today, they have walls where KGB can walk in between them and listen to you. Like my sister came in 1971 to La Habra, and she lived in Lithuania. And she came, older sister, and what she did, the first thing she did, took my mom's cross and put it in a drawer. And my mom went crazy. She said, what the heck are you doing? That's my cross. It's been hanging there for all that time. What if KGB comes in there? No, nobody's going to come in this house. In La Habra, we had a beautiful home on 4 acres. And we lived really nice. I drove a Cadillac at that time, and she was jealous as heck because we are factory workers and we made it big. And she stayed there, and everything she told us, well, if I go to church, my kids could never go to university. And when I went to university in 2000 with a friend of mine, I almost got arrested because I almost threw the teacher out of the window because he was a commie and he's going to tell me what to do. He didn't like it. Okay, he didn't like me in his class.
I can see your mom, the cross meant something for her. It's such an important part of our hope. And I can see your sister. It sounds like, she's still wounded by the war. It still affected her deeply. The fear is still in her.
Oh, yeah.
At the same time, we can't be a people of fear. We have to be people of hope.
Oh, yeah.
And hope means that, you live for a better tomorrow that God somehow will provide. And I think, for me, I am grateful that you and Annie are here in the parish joining us. I thought, this is God said. Mm-hmm. And your testimony is a message of hope, and your art and the work that you do.
Yeah.
Just to be around today is a message of hope. And I think that's why every Holocaust survivor is a testament of the brutality of human being, but also a message of hope that, we can do something better. And I just want to thank you today for that. And everyone, just so you're aware, our talk is going to be over now, but I just want to let you know, of course, Jurgis will be available too if you want questions and after, hang around to answer your questions.
Last question for the public that is watching. We know you love
Your
cats.
cat tunes,
You know
your
your cat-
cartoons.
Your cartoons, it's
I'm
all
a cat.
cats.
He's a
I
real
just played your
cat
cats.
Okay.
I just played your cat
But you
cartoons.
did have a dog. You remember your dog?
Yeah.
What kind of dog was it? Your big dog in La Habra.
Wait, I'm talking, German Shepherd.
A German Shepherd.
Thank you.
Gold one too.
So we're expecting cartoons made for dogs, for the dog lovers. Because there's a lot of cat cartoons.
Well, thank you so much, Jurgis.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you for your